Welcome to the Andy Staples Show. Hope you had a happy Memorial Day weekend. We're coming to you with a Dear Andy, Dear Ari episode, and we have shamelessly sourced some questions from our 5-star reviewers. We asked you last week to drop a question in a 5-star review, and that would automatically get you moved to the front of the line on the Dear Andy, Dear Ari shows. And 2 of you actually listened. And one of the questions is great, and one of them, well, I also think it's great. I don't know how you'll feel about it, Ari, but we moved them to the front of the line. We do have some other questions, including one that will help us preview SEC spring meetings, which begin in Destin on Tuesday. If you were listening to my voice on Tuesday morning, I am flying down I-10, heading to Destin to make sure I get there in time to listen to all the coaches talk. And Ari, Nick Saban, and Jimbo Fisher are going to be in the same room.
Have you been more excited for a road trip in a while? Like, I mean, it seems to me that I'd do just about anything to switch places with you.
Oh, this is going to be spectacular. And you got the Busy Bee gas station in Live Oak. This is kind of like a, poor man's Buc-ee's. Now there are Buc-ee's in Florida, but there's not one on my route. But this place is massive. They have a beef jerky counter. They have a Dunkin' Donuts inside it. So I can get my coffee. I can get my beef jerky on the way. And I'm leaving at like 4 a.m. So I'm going to be rolling into the Buc-ee or the Busy Bee in Live Oak at like
I've never seen this
5
gas station before. I'm looking at it now. It looks great.
It's very nice.
They got a BK in there.
Just completely ripped the whole Buc-ee's thing, but it's great. And so I'm going to be munching on beef jerky and drinking coffee and highly caffeinated, listening to all my favorite podcasts, probably listening to Stars Matter on the way that I've saved from last Thursday. So it's going to be amazing. And then I'm going to get to see, I know Eli Drinkwitz is talking. I'm sure he's going to have some stuff to say about, well, we'll see. Will Greg Sankey be standing there just glaring at people to make sure they don't poke the bear?
Yeah, I don't know. I think we can all hope that people just let it rip,
That's all we can hope for. And some of you did let it rip. And again, I stole this idea from Mike Golick Jr., who was on the show last week. Shamelessly, I might add. And it's pretty shameless on his part, let's be honest. But if you put a 5-star review with a question in it, we will ask your question to Ari and to myself on the show. You go to the front of the line. And so that's all you got to do. It doesn't matter how dumb the question is. We will answer it. I probably stepped in that, Ari. That's probably bad.
Yeah. Well, I think we're going to get some good stuff here. Now, I've got a few things I'd like to say. One's a comment and one's a question before we get to the other questions.
Okay.
Because I'm jumping the line. One, the Busy Bee gas station, which I'm looking at right now in Live Oak, Florida, has a Burger King in it. And
it does.
I personally believe that Burger King is the best breakfast in fast food.
Mm-hmm.
But that's not the question I'm going to ask. I'm going to have you ever had the original chicken sandwich there, the long one?
Yes. Is
that worth 662 calories?
It's been so long. No, not with so many better options available now with your Chick-fil-A's and your Popeyes chicken sandwiches and all that.
I think that the original chicken sandwich is very underrated.
But I had a phase in middle school where that was my go-to at Burger King.
Yeah, I mean it's like the gourmet fast food chicken sandwich has been like the thing of the last 5 years, and I think Chick-fil-A started that. Like other restaurants trying to copy and make like the Popeyes chicken sandwich. Everybody wants to have the best fried chicken sandwich because of Chick-fil-A, but like Burger King stayed true to its roots, and I know they have that like Chick-King sandwich that I would never eat, but they do have the really, really good chicken sandwich. And
This is why Greasy 52 gave us a 2-star review, because we go off topic too much, he said. Now, here's the thing.
Greasy 52.
Yeah.
I would think would like Greasy 52. You would think would like this discussion.
Yeah, well, he didn't ask a question, so he doesn't get any answers. But E. Cabron did ask a question in a 5-star review. And guess what, Greasy? It's off topic.
Yes, but I wanted to. Can I make my comment real quick too?
Because
this is the Andy Staples Show edition of Ari just landed from Las Vegas. Because I was there for one night, but I was playing a slot machine in the terminal because I am a person who gambles in the airport. And somebody came up to me named Wes, who listens to the show, shook my hand and said, "Thank you so much for doing the Andy Staples Show. The show makes my week better. I appreciate what you guys do." And I just wanted to give a personal shout out to Wes, because if you see me in public, and you say that, and he, I think that it's something that we should like give back. To say, hey, thank you for doing it. I really appreciate it. It made my day. And we make all the jokes about how I'm a degenerate, but he like saw me, hitting the dollar slot.
Well, that's the thing.
So
if he had a question about whether it is you or not, the fact that you were playing a slot machine in the airport answered the question for him.
Yes.
So
okay.
That made it easy.
And I won a quick $150 on the way out of there to put a little extra pep in your step.
Nothing but winners for Ari. But yes, thank you, Wes. And by the way, if you're like Wes and you're enjoying the show, please tell a friend and give the gift and tell them to leave a 5-star review and ask us a college football question or any question really, because Ari offers great life advice too, or terrible life advice.
Impeccable life advice.
All right, we're gonna start with EK Ron. 5-star review. This is a good question. I say it's on topic. It's very on brand for our show. E. Greasy's going to think it's off topic. But dear Andy and Ari, love the show. When traveling to a city you've been previously, do you opt to eat at a place you know and love or one that you've never been to but heard good things? My wife is from Ann Arbor, so every time we go there, we eat at Zingerman's. No complaints about that. But there are other spots I want to try and want your opinion on how to prioritize the restaurant selection. This is a great question, and
I struggle with this in real life.
Yeah, this is a great dilemma because, like, I remember when I was doing the column at SI, the punt, pass, and port column, where I basically reviewed a new restaurant every week. So I'd go to a town, and there'd be places that I'd loved that I'd want to go back to that I couldn't because I had to go somewhere new so that I could write about it, and that drove me nuts. And now I find myself when I'm not writing a restaurant review a week that I do tend to go back to the places I really like, but I don't think you should give up on the idea of trying new places. Like Zingerman's fantastic. If you've not been to Zingerman's Deli in Ann Arbor, it's awesome. Now it's pricey, but worth it. Like in the summer when they have the jalapeno peaches to go with your fresher size corned beef and pastrami, like it's awesome. But don't limit yourself to just that one spot because, I would say like in the sandwich category in Ann Arbor, the Maize and Blue Deli is very good. Now it is much more down market than Zingerman's, but it's good. And then you got other fun places to eat. Beer Camp, which is by Michigan Stadium, is kind of a butcher shop deli. They make jerky there. They smoke meat there. It's everything. The menu changes constantly, but I love that place.
How do you approach it?
Well, I try to look to see, is there something new that everybody seems to love that I have not tried yet? That's because if there's not, then I'm probably going back to a favorite.
But I particularly struggle with this with pizza places.
Well, obviously with your Domino's.
No, I really do like to try good pizza places. And it's like the perfect example of that is like Phoenix, I think, is one of the better pizza cities in the country because there's and like every time we go back, I just go back to Spinato's because I know I love it.
The thing about Phoenix is there's always something new. Like that place is turn. Like I remember there was a place that opened up that did Santa Maria style barbecue, which is actually cooked over direct heat. So I'm not sure it's actually barbecue, but it's the ones that it's really cool. They have the grill that goes up and down over the flame, and you do like tri-tip, and it's delicious. Tri-tip with chimichurri, like it's awesome. And I went, and it was great. And I gave me a year later, and it was gone. So I feel with places like that, you got to try them. And if you do like them, spread the word because it's hard in the restaurant business, especially now.
If you know you love something and it's a novelty, and then you burn that place to go try something new, and that new place sucks, it's such a defeated feeling. Now, the one thing I'll say with the Michigan question, though, is that Zingerman's is very good. But I think that you can get a very good corned beef sandwich in every city in America. You have to find it. But like a good corned beef sandwich, I think, is something that's not elusive if you like put the effort in to find a good deli. So the way I would approach it if I were answering the question is, if you're going to a city that has a delicacy that you love, that you literally can't get anywhere else, then I think it's okay to double up. But if the thing that you like is something that can be duplicated in other cities, then open up your horizons and try something new. So
that is a great piece of advice right there, because you're absolutely right. There's a place in New York that I go to every time I'm there pretty much. It's Jan Famous Foods, which they have like 15 locations now. They started in a little mall in Queens, and now they're all over the place. They're in every neighborhood, every section of Manhattan has one nearby. But they do these cumin lamb hand ripped noodles, and you have to eat them within 10 minutes of getting them, or they fall apart on you. They are amazing, and I don't know of anybody else who has those. I don't know anywhere else to get those in any other towns.
Yeah, it's funny that we were talking about this because in Vegas last night when we're recording this, we went to a pizza place, and it might have been one of the best pizza slices I've ever had in my entire life. And I had never been there before, and it's called Good Pie. It's on Fremont Street in Vegas, and it was a grandma slice, and it was legitimately one of the best pieces of pizza I've ever had in my entire life. And there's another place in Vegas called New York Pizza and Pasta that's really, really, really good there, and I wanted to go there. But everybody just said, trust me, this is going to be just as good, if not better. And I'm happy I tried something new because that's like a return place,
Yes.
Yeah,
and that's
so
the thing.
It's a
You
constant
gotta
struggle.
do that.
It's a tug of war. Yeah.
Oh yeah. Well, and there's you've got to remember that there are new places, and also places that are good can fall off. Like Dreamland Barbecue is the prime example of this. Dreamland Barbecue was kind of the gold standard of barbecue of ribs for a long time. The originals in Tuscaloosa on Jug Factory Road, and they used to just serve ribs and white bread, and it was some of the best ribs in America. And then they expanded, and I think they got bought out, and then were under new ownership.
That's usually what happens when it gets bought out.
And it's just not as good. And it doesn't like Archibald's, which was they were kind of neck and neck. Now Archibald's is the much better place to go to get ribs in Tuscaloosa. But it's weird because the Dreamland name still persists, and people still think, oh, you gotta go to Dreamland. Well, yeah, you had to go to Dreamland 20 years ago, but you don't really have to go today. So
yeah,
that's the other piece of it is sometimes these places fall off. A lot of times it's just good to ask a local. Like a lot of times I will throw it out there on Twitter. Hey, I got to cover this. I'm going here. What are some new places you guys love who live there that I don't know about yet?
Yeah. I do sometimes struggle with recommendations because I'll say that like 80% of the time I get recommendations from people. It's like terrible. So, people on Twitter usually are a pretty good, spot, but I think that you always got to do the eye check and see because now in the world of Instagram, you can go look at what the food looks like. Oh. And you can tell, like a few weeks ago, somebody gave me a tip in Dallas for a really good pizza place when I was here alone. And I did an Uber Eats thing because that's like your number one thing when it comes to no Domino's. Uber Eats delivers anything. Go get something. I did it. And the pizza showed up, and it was the most disgusting piece of pizza I've ever seen. And I'll send you a picture of it. I posted it on Twitter a few weeks ago when we were arguing about Domino's. And I just I texted the guy and I said, I'll be honest with you, this was the worst recommendation I've ever gotten from anybody in my entire life.
Well, and barbecue's like that too, because there's some people who love some terrible barbecue. And they're like, but my daddy and I went here all the time. Yeah, your dad's favorite barbecue sucks. I'm sorry to be the bearer of bad news. But
yeah. And sometimes you don't want to risk it. It's just like, it's like laying up in golf. Like, you don't want to, go for it too much because if you miss, you could mess up your entire score. You just need to put it on the fairway. And it's like sometimes the Domino's is just putting it on the fairway.
I had some Domino's cheesy bread this weekend.
I saw that. So what did you think?
It was great. I did the jalapeno bacon one, and it was fantastic. And now, would I order that instead of something special or going to, a special pizza place? No, but that's what the kids wanted. And I might have had 6 beers on the beach. We were staying with some friends at Daytona Beach. I might have had 6 beers on the beach a few hours earlier.
And you look at me in the eyes right now and tell me it just did not hit.
It was delicious.
It hit the way you. Yeah.
Special. It was good.
Oh, it's special.
All right. So
Andy, this is the pizza that showed up when I paid $40 on Uber Eats.
Oh my Lord. That's like a microwave pizza. Like,
that's what showed up.
DiGiorno is better than that.
I paid $40 to get this delivered on Uber Eats.
DiGiorno is better than that. Wow. That is terrible. Yeah. If you own a restaurant and you ship that out, like, you should be ashamed of yourself.
Yeah. And like somebody suggested it too, which really, like, I thought he was messing with me. Like, I sent it to Bill Landis. He goes, "Are you being pranked?"
But see, sometimes now I would say, you need to see multiples of that. So like when Saw's Barbecue opened in Homewood, Alabama, and it's a suburb of Birmingham, people sent me that. I'd say once every 2 or 3 days, somebody different would say, dude, you got to try this next time you're in Birmingham. And eventually enough people sent it and I was like, okay, I better try it. And this was pre-Instagram, and of course it was awesome. So if people over and over keep telling you something's great, that's one thing. But yeah. the one-offs you got to be careful about. You got to check the Instagram. You got to check Yelp, see what people are saying. Because Yelp reviews you got to be careful with too. Because some people's taste buds just don't work. So they'll say they love a place that sucks, and they'll say they hate a place that's great because they're just not good at tasting food.
Yeah. I want to push back on Greaser a little bit, Greasy 52 or whatever. I don't think talking about food is off topic on this podcast, by the way.
I don't think so either. There's a hot dog on the helmet logo. But we do have to move on to some well, I'll let you be the judge of what kind of college football this is. This is Vomo Vomeka. You and I fight says so. I think we got a Northern Iowa fan on our fans, but this is not a Northern Iowa question. This might be an FCS school. I don't know. Love the pod, and every episode is a must listen. Who do you think will start for Adams College this year? The Adams, I think we know who's the starting quarterback for the Adams. That's Stan Gable. Listen, he's the president of a fraternity. He's the president of the Alpha Betas. So I know that takes up a lot of his time. But as long as he doesn't get into some sort of intra-fraternity or inter-fraternity squabble that would cause him to deviate from focusing on football, I think it'll be fine. So as long as there aren't any new fraternities on the campus at Adams College, like, I don't know, let's say that a Lambda chapter opened up. As long as there's none of that, I think Stan's going to have a huge year. And look out, because on the other side of the ball, the D tackle, Fred Polowatsky, the ogre, he is an absolute beast and probably the best burper on the Adams College campus.
And potential first-round draft pick. Yeah.
Unless there's somebody else who can out-burp him. I don't know. Maybe there is.
I bet you Rob Gronkowski could.
I bet you I think I've heard that Adams was recruiting a 5-star burper named Dudley Dawson. Goes by the nickname Booger. But I don't know.
It's so funny because, I would like to know, because that movie was filmed on U of A's campus. I don't know if you know that.
I did.
Yeah. And a few of my friends lived in the dorm that they lived in. It's Cochise Hall. And it was funny to watch the movie. And I like to think to myself, who had more fun? The nerds or Rob Gronkowski on U of A's
University
campus.
of Arizona is Adams College. The University of Oregon is Faber College. USC's been in a bunch of movies. So is UCLA. The Pac-12 they're not the conference of champions. They're the conference of movies.
Yeah. I mean, I don't know why they picked Arizona, but it
was cheap and available. What do you think they did?
Cheap and available. Yeah. Okay. Notre Dame is Rudy. Did you know that? Or is that St. Mary's College?
Well, it's both. They filmed in locations at both. So yeah. I will say, seeing Notre Dame for the first time, that was probably, so Rudy came out when I was in high school. I want to say I was a sophomore or junior in high school. And so I saw Notre Dame for the first time in 2001. So that would have been 5 years after I graduated from high school. So fairly, not far off from seeing the movie for the first time. It was spectacular to be able to see those locations in real life. That is a beautiful campus. If you get a chance to go, even if you're not going to a football game at Notre Dame, if you're just driving through South Bend, go look at the campus. Go walk around.
And I don't know if it's because of the movie, Rudy, but the campus itself seems like the mecca of college football. I don't know. There's just something about it where it's just it always seems like it's fall there.
I think that's just the weather in that part of Indiana.
Yeah, it's always fall there. The leaves are changing. The buildings are beautiful. It just seems like you almost can hear the Rudy soundtrack in your head, when you're walking around there.
Yeah.
I will say that, I've been to a lot of campuses through my job, but I think the Notre Dame's, of all the universities that I've been to, is the most college football-ish.
Yeah.
I don't know if I'm even explaining that the right way,
Yeah,
but it does.
the ones that just sort of take your breath away in terms of how they look. Notre Dame, because of all the iconic stuff, Pepperdine because of the view, and Virginia. Like Virginia is a breathtakingly beautiful campus.
Yeah. I'm trying to think of beautiful campuses.
And I called it campus. Sorry, the grounds at Virginia are
The
breathtakingly
grounds.
beautiful.
I've never been to Virginia. I've been to the
It's
state. I don't know that I've ever been to Charlottesville.
It is a gorgeous campus. So that's one.
Annapolis
Another
too.
one. I have not been there. That's another place. So I have not been to West Point or Annapolis. I want to go to both of those.
Annapolis is a really cool town.
Yeah. I want to go to a game at Navy, and I also want to go to a game at Mikey Stadium at Army. Like that, I feel like those are bucket list ones that I need to check off. So yeah, I'm trying to think of other campuses that just will blow you away. Now the town, I always say Athens, Georgia.
I mean, I think Michigan's beautiful too.
I do too. I love Ann Arbor just as a kind of quintessential college town. Athens, Georgia is the best college town in America. Like if you get one of those hotels that's right by the campus, there's a few. There's a brand new Spring Hill Suites. There's been a Hilton Garden Inn there, or not a Holiday Inn there forever. If you get the one right there and you can walk to all the downtown across the street and then walk around that campus, that's you're living right. So those are, if you just want to make a short list of the campuses you need to see, whether or not it's for a football game, that's the way to do it. And honestly, most of those places, if you're going for a football game, you're forking over $700 for a hotel room in town. So it might be better if you're just there on a Monday and want to see the place and, you know, get the $99 a night hotel that Monday night.
I don't know how it is in Athens, but like at U of A, that Marriott that you stayed in where you walked across campus, like the rate in that place is $350 every night all year.
Yeah, there's a lot of college campuses that are like that because there's always something going on. Like the hotels in College Station are always somewhat expensive because there's just something going on and there's not that many of them. So it is not always cheap, but that Marriott in Tucson, I remember I told Rich Rodriguez, who was coaching there at the time, because I'd walked across the campus from the Marriott to the football building, and I had to meet with him to interview him. And I said, if you just take a recruit on that walk on a day in January, you better get a commitment from that guy. Like there's no question.
Yeah, it's a hell of a walk. I'm trying to think of other beautiful places, but maybe some are escaping me right now.
Well, Adams College in Tucson.
I mean, Tucson's beautiful.
It is, and you go up in the hills and watch the sunset. I mean, it's gorgeous. And
Tucson, the city's not beautiful, but there's a lot of beautiful places within Tucson.
Also,
there's some like spa and resort there that I had just heard of a few weeks ago, where it's like $2,000 a night. And you go there and it's like they have like 5 or 10 activities that you can pick from, and it's like supposed to cleanse your soul.
Ooh. Well,
it's like
all sounds a lot better than the Aaron Rodgers cleanse we talked about on that one show.
Yes, which one of us is probably going to do one day. But
vomiting or diarrhea.
I'll try to come up with the name of that place, and they can pay us to advertise it. But like it's like you do like certain types of yoga, and there's like they ring gongs in your head, and there's like spiritual healing and all this stuff. I don't know. I know a few people.
Work.
Yeah, I don't know if I'm into all that stuff, but a few people I know have gone there and they said it was just an awesome trip. So shout out to Tucson.
So let's go to Justin's question. This is one that was asked in my mailbag, and it's a good one as we go into the SEC spring meetings in Destin, because this was going to be a fairly interesting meeting anyway, because they're talking about the schedule format. We think they're going to go with the 3 permanent opponents and 6 rotating with 9 conference games. We're not positive they're going to do that, but we think they are. But now you have the Jimbo Fisher, Nick Saban stuff tossed on top of it. And I realize that Greg Sankey has issued a gag order essentially on talking about all that stuff. But I find it very hard to believe that all those coaches will manage to avoid it, because we're going to be asking about it. And they can try to shoot us down. Somebody's going to say something. But Justin asked this question in my mailbag already, but it is your concept that he is playing off of here. So I need to ask this of you. Jimbo seems more fired up about Saban's comments. Is Nick playing a Jedi mind trick on Jimbo to get into his head? And if Sankey goes Dean Wormer with double secret probation for Jimbo and Nick, which SEC coach is the first to scream food fight at SEC Media Days for more craziness? Now, he asked about Media Days. We don't need to wait for Media Days. They're all in the same room for 2 days, Tuesday and Wednesday. So if somebody wants to scream food fight, it can happen.
I mean, isn't Lane Kiffin already kind of doing that?
Yes, because
like he's already done it like on Twitter. He
has needled Jimbo pretty much since all this stuff started, since the sliced bread stuff started. By the way, we owe sliced bread like a gift basket for providing all this content for us. But yeah, Lane has been poking that particular bear over and over and over again. And I think he would be one. Eli Drinkwitz always has jokes, but he's so new that I'm not sure he'd be willing to jump in there and say, start firing him off at Jimbo and Nick, because these are two guys. They both got national championships, obviously. Nick quite a few more, and they're kind of deans of coaching in the league. Brian Kelly, I don't think gives a crap what anybody thinks. So perhaps he's the one.
Yeah, which is hilarious because, like, you always say that Lane Kiffin is more eccentric on social media, but isn't like that in person. And I've interviewed him before, and he seemed fine, but nothing controversial. It's like, I think that he might be a keyboard warrior, so I don't know if he would yell food fight.
Ooh, but you might be right.
Yeah, I mean, I'm not saying it as an insult because everybody thinks it's funny, and I think what he does is good for the game, but it's not like he's like saying all those things that he's saying like in open press conferences. He did have an interview with Ross Dellinger, which I thought was a really good interview, and he was pretty frank about some stuff. But so maybe that's a little harsh. But and Brian Kelly would probably just be like, "Is this over soon?
Yeah,
I've got a program to run."
Yeah, he's the one that would be like, "Guys, hug, shake hands, kiss, and make up. Let's go."
Yeah, Mike Leach would be like asking where the cookies are. I'm trying to think of like which person would want to start.
Would want the
show.
Chaos.
Yeah, like in like because the person who yells food fight is also always the first person to throw something.
What about Kirby? Again, Kirby's not said anything through any of this.
Why would you? If you were him, why would you say anything?
You wouldn't. It's very smart not to.
You already have a national championship ring from last year. You're recruiting gangbusters. Alabama just accepted a commitment from somebody else, and it might have brought you a step closer to Arch Manning. And it's just like, life's good. Like when you're living the dream, like there's no reason to involve yourself in this. It's
but they hover, like Georgia hovers over all of this.
Now, wouldn't it be hilarious if Clark Lee was just like, everybody's being immature and like did the Vanderbilt thing? I'm trying to think. Brian Harsin is like, I don't want to get fired. I'm not going to do anything. Brian
Harsin is like, boys, keep talking. The longer you talk, the less anybody bothers me. And that's what I need. But yeah, it is very interesting. The other question regarding the SEC, this is from Peter, and this is your concept here. Could you flesh out your Texas A&M as a high school student in a cafeteria idea a bit more? If SEC schools were students in a cafeteria, who would sit with who, and what is their dynamic like? So we're talking about programs and not necessarily coaches, because like I can see Billy Napier sitting with Nick Saban. They used to work together. They seem to get along okay. Or sitting
you have
with
to use
Smart,
the coach, but
like,
I don't think we should use real life relationships to use it. I think we should use the embodiment of the program and who they've become, and not that Nick Saban used to work with Billy Napier.
I got one for Auburn. So Auburn is the kid whose parents are just nuts. And so like Auburn's just trying to get by, trying to do the best Auburn can in school, trying to get decent grades, trying to, play, be good at football practice after school, do some extracurriculars. But then they go home and dad's like shooting plates with a shotgun, and mom is hitting him with a lacrosse stick while he does it. Like that's what Auburn's got to deal with.
So like when I hear this question, Andy, and I don't know how familiar you are with Mean Girls.
Yeah.
All I think about
Stop
is
trying
Mean
to make
Girls.
fetch happen.
Yes. And all I think about is Mean Girls, and I'm like looking at the programs, and like I think that Nick Saban in Alabama is absolutely Regina George, right? The
yes.
almighty powerful program that's the most successful, the most popular, but can be sensitive when things aren't going her way, which happened literally last week, right?
Yes.
So let me think here. So Gretchen Wieners wants to be popular really, really bad, and but I don't know that it's an enemy. I still think that they wants to be Alabama's friend. So I think like LSU is Gretchen Wieners, where there's some
they
like
want to be Alabama's friend. I don't think they want to be Alabama's friend.
No, I think that LSU is Gretchen Wieners in the sense of just like they want to be in the club, but they secretly resent or maybe not so secretly, but yeah, because like Texas A&M is unquestionably
Lindsay
Katie
Lohan.
Heron, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay,
Homeschooled
so, like,
and everything,
and everybody's pissed off because she's getting popular, right?
Mm-hmm.
So Lane Kiffin is Damien, the friend of Janice Ian, right? Who's like kind of like involved in the scamming a little bit, but like also is more funny about it and isn't really as harmless.
Wait, does this make Greg Sankey Tim Meadows?
Yes, Greg Sankey is Tim Meadows. And I'm trying to think. The weather girl, Karen Smith, is Mike Leach, who she's just like a cool person, but also like telling the weather with body parts. You know what I mean? Like just kind of doing her own thing.
Who's Amanda Seyfried? Who's Karen Smith? She's the ditzy one.
Yeah, that's the one. That's who I just said.
Okay, I got you. Leach. Okay, that's right. Okay, I got you.
Mike, because she's kind of like out there and she's not really part of the conflict at all, and is kind of just on her own planet. The one I want to know is like who is Janice Ian, who is the person that wants to take her down Regina George the most. So like that's the only thing. So that might be Florida,
right? Just secretly working
behind the scenes to do everything they can to take down the king of the conference.
Who's Georgia in all this? Is Georgia Amy Poehler?
Yeah, Georgia. I don't know. That's a good one.
Who's the mom? Not Anna Gasteyer.
Yeah, the mom is an older program that wants to be taken wants to be taken as cool.
Yeah.
So which program is the most program that used to be like the hot thing back in the day? But Tennessee is the mom.
Ah, there you go.
Cool. Tennessee is the mom. You know, back in the day, they were really cool, and all they want to do is be a part of the club still, and they want to make drinks for the family when they come over, and they're like, "Hey, I'm still cool. I'm in the club, right?" And they're trying to become cool again, right?
That's
Georgia
perfect.
might actually be Miss Norbury because they're the national champion and they are the teacher. And like everybody is kind of like off battling, and they are involved in the discussion a little bit, but they are kind of running the show and off to the side.
And they wrote the movie.
And they, yeah. Am I doing good?
Did write the movie.
Am I doing good? Like I'm doing my best. I think
that's perfect.
Yes, I think I'm doing okay, and I don't know which one is Aaron Samuels. That would be like the guy who's trying, who's like the main. I guess Aaron Samuels is probably Arch Manning.
That is, and you've got, well, we don't know who Texas and Oklahoma are. We don't really have an analog for them at this point.
Yeah, I'm looking at the cast of. I'm looking at the.
But
the
he's
cast
definitely Arch Manning, though. He's absolutely Arch Manning.
Aaron Samuels is Arch Manning. I think we got the main characters.
I think we definitely did. And A&M. The Lindsay Lohan comparison is good because A&M is sort of doing this the same way Alabama did this, but it pisses off Regina George, like, because isn't it basically Katie starts to become popular by acting like Regina George.
That's right.
Yeah,
and Regina George gets mad about it, and she rises up the food chain of college popularity or high school popularity. And Regina probably thinks, well, what did Katie Heron do to be as popular as me? And you have the whole thing. And then now there's this whole atmosphere of Mean Girls. So
when does Alabama make the Notebook?
In Alabama, and then Alabama, I'm assuming, will graduate to taking a role in one of the best love stories of all time, which still hits me today. I watch that. I get a little I get misty in that one.
A
Yeah.
little verklempt.
I think a real man can admit when they cry.
Listen.
What do you want?
Rachel McAdams goes hard in every movie she's in.
Yeah, I actually have a take that Ryan Gosling is the best actor of our generation.
That is a bold take. I'm trying
He's in
to
a
think.
lot of very good movies that aren't necessarily blockbusters where acting is insanely good.
Yes, and his. It's interesting because his looks could become distracting, but they're not.
I also think he is like the most
Charlize
handsome
Theron
man on the face of the earth. Yeah.
Right. Charlize Theron is sort of the female version of this, where she can play anything, and even though she is amazingly beautiful, it does not distract necessarily from the role. But
yeah, and if you go back and you think about Ryan Gosling's like roles in the history of his career, like I think everybody is automatically remembers him as the main character in The Notebook, and I think Blue Valentine's probably one that comes to mind. But and of course, Crazy Stupid Love.
Crazy Stupid Love. Yeah,
but like, have you seen like his have you seen the movie Half Nelson or
I have
Fracture?
not seen Half Nelson. Well, I actually just watched Blade Runner 2049, which he doesn't get a lot to work with in that movie. They basically make him walk around and stare at things for a long time, but he does a great job. You know, he creates this relationship and makes it very believable with something that doesn't exist. It's fantastic. So
have you ever seen the movie The Believer?
I have not.
And I don't know. I mean, it's just a incredible movie. And I'm just going to read the bio or what's it called? The snapshot, the preview, what's the word? I don't know.
The log line.
Yeah, the log line. A young Jewish man develops a fiercely anti-Semitic core philosophy based on the factual story of a KKK member in the 1960s who was revealed to be Jewish by a New York Times reporter. And that might be heavy for some people, and it's a heavy movie, but like if you go and watch it, and the acting in that movie is like very, very moving, and that's one of my favorite movies of all time.
Well, and
they don't make movies like that anymore.
Yeah, he was in Drive. He was in Lars and the Real Girl. So yeah,
yes. And what's the one where he was robbing banks on a motorcycle? The Place Beyond the Pines. Have you seen that one?
I have not seen that one,
dude. You've got a lot of Ryan Gosling to catch up on because he is an incredible actor, and you know I think he is a better actor than he is a good-looking man.
Well, I hope so because I just looked up his IMDb page. 2023. There's a Barbie movie coming out, and he's playing Ken.
That's hilarious.
Yes.
I'm just happy that you didn't say like he was in Spider-Man or something, because I can't do the comic book thing.
He would have made a great Spider-Man. He'd have been a fantastic Spider-Man.
Yeah.
Though I enjoy the guy who's playing Spider-Man now.
Yeah.
He's very good. So
I've never seen it.
We're gonna move on to Andy's question. This is interesting. This is one from your mailbag. And it's very interesting because when I read this, my first thought was he did not even include the thing I'm going to say first. And I wonder if you feel the same way. So here we go. Rank the reasons prospects decommit from a school. As an outside observer and fan, my mind would go something like 1, position coach change, 2, head coach change, 3, NIL opportunity elsewhere, 4, change in players committing or decommitting to the school or to a different school. And Andy says, interested to see if people closer to the process think differently. My first thought when someone
thought was something different that he didn't put on his list too.
Yeah, the coach cut him loose. They recruited over top of him, and there's no room in the class for him anymore. That's also my first
on there.
thought.
The number one. You think that's number one?
That's number one for me.
That is
my first assumption.
I think number one is when a coach leaves, whether it be the head coach. I don't want to. That's not too separate. But I think the number 2 is when they get better offers.
Well, you're talking about when they actually decommit. When you see a player announce a decommitment on social media,
yeah,
at least 50% of the time, it's not that player's decision.
So you think that's number one?
Oh, I 100% do.
Yeah, I mean, I'm not going to argue with that. I think that's fair.
But yes, when it's actually the player's decision, absolutely coach moving.
I think number 1 should just be change in circumstance at the place. Like I don't know.
Well, that would be numbers 1 through 4, pretty much.
Well, I mean, like coach leaves, NCAA sanctions or something would probably be number 1. But I think those are all different things. And then a lot of times kids commit somewhere early and then they flip or decommit because they got better or bigger offers. I think that's also part of it. That's a really hard thing to do. It would be very interesting to take a log of it. Like I don't know if it'd be even possible to keep track, but like the second the 2023 class is done signing, to like turn the page and like get a notebook, and every time somebody decommits, try to figure out why they decommitted, and then like make a pie chart of like, here are the 5 reasons why they decommitted over the course of the past year, and see which one is the most, and it'd be kind of, hard to be 100% accurate on it because sometimes reasons aren't always forthcoming. But like, I wonder, the question too is, like, I don't know how much people want to have an NIL discussion right now. I don't know that I do, but I wonder if NIL packages is going to rise up that list very quickly in the next few years.
I would think so. And it's interesting if you haven't signed a deal yet, but you've been quote unquote promised a deal. We'll see if anybody can actually prove that. But someone quote unquote promises you a better deal and you bounce. I mean, I can see that happening. I can see that happening 11th hour kind of things, and it'll drive coaches mad. But it is interesting to me because my first thought is, oh, they cut him loose. Like, that is almost always what I think and I don't think fans think that way, because the coaches never say when they cut him loose. Like, you and I will hear that, and another reporter.
And you also can read between the lines a lot of times too, of like,
yeah,
when I was covering Ohio State, a lot of times it would be like, thanks so much, Ohio State, for the opportunity, but I'm gonna decommit and check out my other options. And a month later, it's like, I would like to announce that I'm committing to Indiana. It's like, okay, we know what happened here.
We know what happened there. Yeah, that's the thing. But it drives me crazy because I have friends who've worked in this business who will say, well, I can't believe this person decommitted from this school. And I'm like, but you don't know why.
Yeah.
Like, it could have been the school decommitted from them. It happens.
Yeah, it's true. So it's true. Yeah, and it should be on the list for sure.
All right. So this is a question from Rob, and this will be our last one. If you're tired of NIL questions, here's an old-fashioned off-season realignment what-if question. And this is a doozy. Like, my mind went down this rabbit hole, and it got weird. Suppose that way back when the NCAA first adopted the rule proposed by 2 D2 conferences, that a conference could have a title game if it had 12 or more schools playing in 2 divisions. The NCAA had simply adopted the new rule that conferences could hold a title game without any of those restrictions. So what they basically just approved. What parts of realignment happen anyway because of TV deals and conference networks, and which parts never happen? So remember that round of realignment that began in the early 90s, where Penn State goes to the Big Ten and the Big 12 forms, it was touched off by, one, the Southwest Conference was breaking up. So Arkansas leaves to join the SEC. The SEC needs a partner for Arkansas. Texas, I believe Texas and A&M said no. Florida State said no. And they wind up taking South Carolina. Florida State was an independent. It was like, oh crap, we gotta join a conference. They joined the ACC. Penn State was an independent. They joined the Big Ten. So I think the Penn State to the Big Ten still happens. I think Florida State to the ACC still happens. But Roy Kramer, the commissioner of the SEC at the time, he might have just done the championship game with the 10 they had. And South Carolina and Arkansas never come.
Yeah. I mean, I'd like to think about an alternate universe where Florida State was just in the SEC for the past 15 years or 25 years or however long it's been.
And they like to think about it too, because they feel bad, I think, now that they said no. But at the time, the SEC was not what it was. Florida State dominated the ACC for the first 10 years it was in there, maybe more than that. And so, like, at the time, it did not seem like a bad decision. Now, the ACC rating the Big East is an interesting one here, because they had to rate the Big East to get up to 12. Maybe they don't. Maybe they don't raid the Big East. Maybe they stick with the I guess the 9 they had.
And then what would the conferences look like today?
I don't know. And I still think there would be consolidation because of television, but I do wonder, would there have been more options on the board? Like, because Larry Scott, he had the 16 idea, and they were going from 10 to 16. They were going to get to 12 no matter what. But if they didn't have to get to 12, would they have taken Colorado and Utah if the other one fell apart?
I don't know that they would have.
I don't think they would have. That is a great question, Rob, because I am trying to think how things would have coalesced and consolidated. Like, what would they have coalesced around instead? I still think it would have, like, the territory acquisition thing still would have mattered a lot with the conference cable networks. So I still think, like, the Big Ten may still try to get Maryland and Rutgers because of the territory acquisition. The SEC still would have tried to get done. Remember, the SEC tried to get Oklahoma and Texas A&M. The invitation was always there to Texas, but Texas never wanted to be in the SEC. Now, the question is, does the SEC ever become the SEC as we know it if they never took South Carolina and Arkansas and just went, conference championship game with the 10 they had? Would it have still ballooned into what it became?
Why wouldn't it have?
I think it would have, because, like, Nick Saban getting hired at LSU was a major factor there. He basically, brought the blueprint. Tommy Tuberville going to Auburn and kind of showing people how to defend Steve Spurrier was another big piece of it. Like, Saban getting to LSU and Tuberville showing people how to defend Spurrier at the same time, where it really pushed the league toward dominant defense for a long time. And it didn't shift into dominant offense for 10 years after that.
Yeah, that's a lot. Because, like, one alignment domino with that, like, the butterfly effect of, is that what the right term, the butterfly effect of what
absolutely.
that is? Imagine taking like 17 different changes that happened during that period of time and saying they wouldn't have happened. Like, maybe there'd be an entire conference full of a lot of those independent teams that joined.
Well, that's the thing. Would there be a conference, or would they still be independents?
Yeah. I don't know that they would still be independents, because the amount of money through television deals has been very attractive, because it's money that you're getting through those contracts.
Here's a thought. Would Notre
Dame be in a conference with Penn State?
Would Notre Dame have created its own conference of independent? Like, imagine
Florida State would be in it.
Right. Notre Dame creates a conference with Florida State, Penn State, South Carolina, Louisville,
Arkansas,
Miami. Oof. That would have been something. And that would have been a hell of a conference. Think about those programs at that time.
Would it be called the Irish Conference?
I don't know what they would have called it. But it would have been more geographically diverse than any of the existing.
It would have been the first conference to ever be diverse in their geography, wouldn't it?
And it would have had
like a national geography one.
Yeah, and it would have had an exclusive, like the 3:30 Saturday game in that conference, which would have been on NBC, I'm sure. Like, that would have predated. Let's say that all coalesced in the mid-90s. That would have predated the SEC on CBS nationwide game by.
And maybe that new conference would have been the SEC now.
Maybe that because Miami was awesome at the time. Notre Dame was still really, really good. Penn State was great. Man, that would have been fascinating. And then, because Arkansas didn't really have a place to go after the Southwest Conference broke up, they were not going to be invited to the Big 12, according to Frank Broyles, who was the AD at the time. So would they? Yeah, they would probably have joined that. Because remember, most of those schools did. Now, Notre Dame played basketball in the Big East, but all those other schools played their other sports in what was called the Metro Conference. It basically created that conference, the Metro, to have a place for the independent football schools to park their basketball teams.
I've got like galaxy brain right now. I don't even know how to, like, I can't even keep all this.
It's crazy.
There's a lot happening right now. Yeah.
Because think about, early 90s. Now, Miami hit a dip after the NCAA investigation in the late 90s, but then came back quickly. I mean,
think about if they had a Notre Dame conference
and Florida State was amazing at the time,
and they put together the TV deals that would have had it, and would have been a collective bargaining agreement for the entire conference that would have propped it up. Maybe you'd have another superpower in college football that doesn't exist right now.
You're exactly
right.
What
if Arkansas was Alabama right now?
That's so great. But listen, that coincided with a couple of years where Arkansas was really good. Arkansas won the SEC West twice in the early going.
Yeah. That's crazy.
Oh my gosh. What a deal.
Question.
Like, that is a great question, Rob. I don't think we can top that, but I would love to know what you guys think would have happened there, because I think there's probably some branches that we have not explored, that we haven't even thought of. And that really would have changed everything. And that's the craziest thing about this. And I wrote that story back in 2014 about why that rule with the conference championship game was the way it was. The Pennsylvania State Athletic Conference, and then there was a sister conference in Virginia that said, hey, you have 14 teams, we have 12. Can we just change the number 14 to 12? Like, that's wild.
Yeah. No, I conference realignment never ceases to amaze me in terms of just like the way that the entire sport is shaped up as a result of it. And just like, listen, in 15 years, when we're looking back at Texas and Oklahoma going to the SEC, somebody's going to ask a mailbag question and say, what do you think would have happened to college football if those two schools never left the Big 12? And like, that's going to be some crazy scenario that will blow our future selves' minds. So,
Ari, listen, you and I are going to be podcasting from a private island somewhere,
from Lincoln Riley's backyard, because we're going to acquire that property through the success of our podcast.
That's exactly right. We'll be retired at that point, though.
Yes.
I can't wait to listen to that other person's podcast about that one.
I don't know that I'll be retired in 15 years. You might be. We'll see.
Well, we'll see.
As long as I keep hitting those slot machines in Vegas, I'm still going to have to work. So
there you go. Ari Wasserman, if you want to find him, just look for the Degenerate Gamblers. You'll find him. We'll talk to you later.